need you to sit with what I'm about to say. Because the energy around you right now is different. I felt it the moment I started pulling cards. There's an arrival happening. Somebody is walking toward your life and they are not far away. Not metaphorically, not in the next few years. Close. Closer than you've let yourself hope. And I think part of you has been quietly bracing for disappointment, telling yourself not to get your hopes up, telling yourself the love of your life thing is for other people. That's the part I want you to put down for the next 15 minutes. Just put it down. Let me show you what's actually here. Let me pull these. The first thing I want to tell you is the timeline, because that's what you really want to know. This is not far away. This is right at the door. Like, energetically, there is a person standing on the threshold of your life right now. Not entering yet, not announced yet, but standing there. And the door is about to open. I'm getting something around 8 weeks, maybe sooner for some of you. Could be a season change, a small life shift, a moment where something in your routine adjusts, and that's the opening through which they arrive. Don't try to force the timing. The timing is already working. And here's what's wild. You're going to look back on this period, these weeks right before they arrive, and realize you could feel them coming. That weird sense you've had lately, like something is about to change but you can't name what? That's been your body knowing before your mind knew. Your nervous system has been picking up the signal. I need to give you credit for something, because I don't think you give yourself enough. You did the work. You did. Quietly, without anyone clapping for you, you did the inner work that made this arrival possible. The crying you did alone, the patterns you broke, the no you finally said to something you used to say yes to, the way you stopped texting first, the way you stopped explaining yourself to people who were never going to understand. All of that, every uncomfortable choice you made, was clearing the space for what's coming. A version of you from a year ago wouldn't have been ready for this person. That version was still bleeding from things, still attracted to chaos, still confusing intensity for connection. The current you, the one watching this, is somebody who can actually receive love now. That's not small, that's massive. Most people never get there. The universe doesn't send love into a body that's still in a war with itself. It sends love into a body that's finally settled into being its own home. You finally are. That's why now. Let me prepare you for something important. This person is not your type. And I don't mean that as a warning. I mean it as a gift. Because your type, the pattern you've kept getting, has been part of what hurt you. The same energy in different bodies. The same emotional unavailability dressed up in different outfits. You kept getting handed the same lesson because you kept choosing from the same shelf. This person isn't on that shelf. They might look different than you usually go for. They might carry themselves differently. Their energy will not have that familiar hook that your old patterns recognize. And because of that, you might almost miss them. Your eyes have been trained to look for a certain kind of intensity, a certain flavor of unavailability that you mistook for chemistry. This person doesn't have that flavor. They have a different one, quieter, steadier, real. Stay open. Don't filter this person out because they don't trigger your old wiring. The fact that they don't trigger it is the entire point. When you first encounter them, whether it's a meeting, a conversation, an exchange of any kind, there's going to be a click. And the click isn't fireworks. That's what I want to prepare you for, because you've been taught to look for fireworks. Real love doesn't usually announce itself with fireworks. It announces itself with a strange easiness. Wait, why does this feel familiar feeling? A conversation that flows longer than conversations with strangers usually do. A moment where you both kind of laugh at the same thing at the same time, and then there's this tiny pause where you both clock that something is happening. You're not going to have to perform with this person. That's how you'll know. There's no version of you that you have to be around them. The version of you that just exists when nobody's trying, that version is the one they're going to be drawn to. The unedited one. Your real laugh, not your good photo laugh. Your real opinions, not your safe opinions. For a lot of you, the click happens around something small. A song that comes on. A throwaway sentence one of you says. A coincidence that's just specific enough to land. You'll know the moment when it happens. Here's the part that's going to give you chills if you let it. While you've been doing your work, they've been doing theirs. In a completely separate corner of the world, with no awareness of you, this person has been quietly becoming the person they needed to be in order to recognize you when they meet you. They went through their own thing, their own version of the heartbreak that taught them what they don't want, their own version of the quiet rebuild, their own moment of realizing they had been settling. They had their own list of patterns to break, and they broke them, or they're in the last stretch of breaking them. Either way, the work happened. And that's why this meeting is going to feel so cosmically lined up, because it is. Two people becoming themselves in parallel on separate tracks with no overlap until the moment the tracks are supposed to cross. That's not luck. That's not even fate in the dramatic sense. That's just what happens when two people each become real enough to see each other. There's something with a Gemini energy around this person. Could be them, could be someone connected to how you meet them. Just throwing it out there. Let me tell you specifically how this person is going to show up, because I think this is going to be the most healing part of the whole experience for you. They're going to be proactive, like actually proactive. Not the thinking about you kind, the showing up kind. They're going to initiate. They're going to make plans and follow through on them. They're going to text first sometimes. They're going to ask questions about your life and then remember the answers later. They're going to do the small things. And the small things are going to wreck you in the best way. Because you're so used to small things being absent. You're so used to being the one who remembers, who initiates, who keeps the connection alive. With this person, you finally get to receive. You finally get to be the one being thought about, planned around, remembered. It's going to feel almost uncomfortable at first because it's unfamiliar. Let it be uncomfortable. The discomfort is your nervous system learning a new template. There's a specific way they'll do something early on, a small gesture, a remembered detail, I saw this and thought of you moment. And you're going to be sitting there afterwards in this kind of quiet shock, not because it was huge, because it was consistent with everything else they've done. That's the part that breaks you open. I want to give you a tool, a real one, because there's one signal that tells you this is the person and not a pattern repeating itself. Your body relaxes around them. That's it. That's the test. Not your heart races. Not you can't stop thinking about them. Not you feel sick when they don't text back. Those are anxiety markers, not love markers. You've spent years confusing the anxious feeling for love because anxious is what familiar felt like. This person. Your body settles. Your shoulders drop. You sleep better the night after seeing them. Your stomach is calm. You're not refreshing your phone. You're not analyzing their last message. You're just present, in your body, available to the moment. And that's what safe love feels like. That's what it feels like to be with someone who isn't a threat to your nervous system. Pay attention to that signal. It's going to be unfamiliar. You might even mistake it at first for no chemistry, because chemistry to you has historically been laced with cortisol. This is a different kind of chemistry. This is the kind that doesn't cost you your peace. When they look at you for the first real time, and I mean the first time they actually see you, not just glance at you, they're going to know. Not in a dramatic way, just in a quiet, settled way. Like a sentence finishing in their head that they didn't know was unfinished. They're going to notice you fast. Faster than you'll notice them, probably. because they've been preparing themselves to recognize the right person, and you fit the shape of what they've been making space for. The work they did made them ready to clock you when you walked into their range. They're going to be drawn to something specific about you, something you don't think is special, something you might even be self-conscious about. The way you say a certain word, a small habit, the thing you do with your face when you're listening, something you've never been complimented on. They'll notice it, and it'll wreck them a little, and eventually, after you've been around each other for a while, they'll tell you, and you'll go, "That? You noticed that?" And they'll look at you like you have no idea how seen you've been. You've been overlooked before. You've been with people who needed everything explained to them. This person sees you on the first read. You don't have to translate yourself. I want to give you one realistic note before we close, because the warmth of this reading deserves some grounded truth too. This is not going to be one of those love at first sight, we moved in together after 3 weeks stories. That's a different genre. This story is steadier, slower in the right way. The first few weeks will feel almost suspiciously normal. You're going to keep waiting for the catch. There isn't one. The relief you feel will be a real signal, not a false one. They will test the waters at first, carefully, respectfully, not because they're playing games, but because they're handling you like something they don't want to break. They'll move in steps, a small thing, then a slightly bigger thing, then a moment that's a little more vulnerable, then more, building, earning trust as they go. This pace is the right pace. It's the pace your nervous system can actually integrate. The fast burns you've had before, those were never real. They were chemistry without foundation. This one has the foundation. Let it take the time it needs. One last thing. Before they arrive, there's going to be a final closing of an old chapter. Not necessarily dramatic, maybe just a moment where you realize you don't miss someone you used to miss. A moment where you see a name pop up and feel nothing. A moment where the version of you that used to chase a certain kind of person looks back at you in the mirror and you barely recognize her anymore. That's the old chapter ending. That's the door closing behind you while the new one opens in front of you. You're not going back to what was. That part is genuinely over. The person who's about to walk in is so different from what you've had before that the comparison will feel almost laughable. You'll wonder what you were doing for all those years. Don't beat yourself up about that. You were learning. Every wrong person was teaching you what you were actually looking for. You needed all of it to be able to recognize this one. So here's what I want you to do with all of this. Don't go looking for them. That's not how this works. You're not going to find them on a dating app at 11 p.m. when you're sad. You're not going to manifest them by white-knuckling a vision board. You find them by continuing exactly what you've been doing, taking care of yourself, choosing peace, being in your real life, showing up as the version of you that you've worked so hard to become. Just stay in your life. Stay in your body. Stay open. Don't shrink when something gentle shows up, because you don't recognize gentle. Don't sabotage something steady because you don't recognize steady. The thing you've been praying for is going to look different than the thing you used to chase. Let it. And when it happens, when that strange, easy click comes, you're going to remember this reading. You're going to remember the moment you sat here and let yourself believe, just for a few minutes, that it could actually happen for you. It can. It is. They're already on the way. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.